Welcome to Fantastic Vision. Please subscribe us before you watch today's video. At the end of January this year, the United States, Japan and the Netherlands reached a tripartite agreement. The specific content has not yet been announced, but the United States' intentions have long been clear. Following the announcement of new regulations in October last year, the United States has been meeting with Japan and the Netherlands to jointly implement export controls. Subsequently, after a period of deliberation, Japan and the Netherlands successively announced that they would implement export controls, which is even more illustrative of the problem. Some time ago, after Japan's restrictive measures were officially implemented, the pressure spread to the Netherlands, and foreign media said the consequences were very serious. Earlier, Japan announced an amendment to the foreign exchange law, which will impose export controls on 23 items of equipment and materials in 6 categories related to advanced wafer manufacturing, and is scheduled to take effect on July 23. Now it's time for Japan to officially implement it. It should be noted that China has issued stern warnings before this, and Japanese industry has also raised objections. After the Netherlands announced that it would implement export controls, China began to fight back, announcing that it would restrict the export of gallium and germanium-related items. Of course, China would like to remind the participants of the tripartite agreement that China also has bargaining chips in its hands, and should not feel uneasy. However, Japan simply ignored these warnings, objections and countermeasures, and continued to implement export controls on time. It can be seen that Japan is resolutely cooperating with the United States restrictions on wafers in an attempt to gain support from the United States and revive Japan's semiconductor industry. Japan has really healed and its scars have forgotten the pain. It seems that it has forgotten who knocked down this year's semiconductor glory. Now, Japan wants to take advantage of this opportunity to vigorously develop local wafer manufacturing. The Rapidus company it founded has received advanced technical support from IBM in the United States, and an EUV lithography machine from ASML. The United States has not added insult to injury. Japan seems very proud of this. However, the development of Japanese semiconductors has had a great impact on the United States. The United States cannot tolerate it, and has to find ways to sanction Japanese semiconductors as they decline. The United States has learned the lessons of the past, and no matter how much it tolerates it, it can only let it go temporarily. When Japan's semiconductor development threatens the United States will certainly continue to show no mercy. Japan seems to have forgotten an important fact. That is, after being sanctioned by the United States, Japan's semiconductor equipment and materials survived with the development of China's integrated circuit industry, providing an important transportation market for relevant Japanese manufacturers. In recent years, the compound annual growth rate of China's semiconductor equipment market has been much higher than the overall global level. In particular, mainland China has become the world's largest semiconductor equipment market for 3 consecutive years, indicating that China's wafer industry is developing very rapidly. Japanese semiconductor equipment accounts for about 30% of the world market share, 40% of which is exported to the mainland market. That is, the equipment exported by the United States to China is almost twice that of Japan. Therefore, Japanese equipment sellers with mainland revenue account for about 30% of the total. For example, Tokyo Electronics has become its largest source of revenue, with revenue from mainland China accounting for 25.63% in 2022. Therefore, Japan's export control tendency will indeed affect the modernization and innovation of China's semiconductor industry to a certain extent. However, Japan's restrictions are mainly concentrated on the advanced process level, and their impact on mature processes is relatively limited. Most of the equipment and materials related to mature processes have been replaced at the national level, and China has begun to move towards the highest level. The impact of this on Japanese companies will be huge. They simply cannot find a market that can replace the mainland. The loss of the Chinese market is likely to lead to the loss of Japan's only remaining chip advantage again. Tokyo Electronics, Nikon and other companies will definitely face huge losses. It is worth mentioning that Japan has officially implemented this agreement, and the next step is to study the Netherlands, the other party to the tripartite agreement. At first, the Netherlands was reluctant, but under pressure from the United States, the Netherlands had to participate. The Netherlands seemed powerless, but the situation became increasingly serious. This is because the United States does not seem to be satisfied with the export control measures announced by the Netherlands some time ago, and intends to further expand ASML's after-sales market restrictions, including restricting sales to 6 SMIC integrated circuit manufacturing companies, including Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, SMIC. Circuit Manufacturing Company, Limited, SMIC, OEM ships older DUV models. The U.S. action threatened to paralyze the Netherlands and ASML, and the Dutch Prime Minister faced intense pressure to resign. The fundamental problem is that Japan and the Netherlands will follow the restrictive measures imposed by the United States and face serious consequences. Japanese and Dutch companies will not only face losses, but also face losing their markets. If they proactively set restrictions and close themselves off, they will inevitably lose their competitiveness and ultimately their future. Since this situation is forcing the world's largest market, the market will naturally promote Chinese companies to accelerate substitution. The restrictions imposed by the restrictors will only limit themselves in the end. In this regard, some foreign media said, the consequences of following the United States in implementing restrictions are very serious. The process of internal replacement is certainly difficult, but China must persevere. Nothing can stop the heroic Chinese people.